Ladies and gentlemen, it's my second and last year of the presidency of the UEG, so it's probably time to look ahead a little bit to the future. And the title of my talk today is UEG Fit for the Future. You could, of course, say that with an exclamation mark, yes, we are fit for the future, but also a question mark could be actually important, because are we really fit for the future? If you then Google this, then probably we have to look back at the history first. This is a quote which you'll find on Google, with many people actually claiming the quote, Winston Churchill being one of them, and probably is the most important one. Without history, clearly there would be no future, and we have to look back to our history to understand where we are and whether the future or the way we're going is the right way, I think. So looking back, the UEG week started in 1992. Ages ago, I think. The first time was in Greece, organized by the Hellenic Society. So at that time, still the local society would organize the meeting. And slowly we have moved on. From 1992 to 2001, then there was a scientific committee installed. So there was not just always a different committee, but there was a permanent scientific committee from 2001. And from 2006 onwards, there was a central organization, so it was not organized by the Hellenic Society or the Dutch Society, but then it was taken on by the UEG. So these were all important things, and in 2006 also the postgraduate course was integrated into the week itself. At that time we stopped having the separate liver, endoscopy, maybe IBD postgraduate courses, but there was a fully integrated postgraduate course, which, as you just heard, has become a great success. So these are the figures as of yesterday evening for our current meeting in Barcelona here. We're close to reaching 13,000 participants, which is actually what we hoped for, and with the on-site registration of today, definitely we'll have about 30,000 participants. But we also had more than 4,000 people in the postgraduate course, and that's been a record, because we moved from last year 3,400 to more than 4,000, and even last year we were surprised, because the year before it was 2,800 or 2,900. So the concept of postgraduate course is really has been taken up, and we do this in a curriculum. In 3 years we go through the entire GI tract, and for instance on Saturday morning there were more than 3,000 people in this room listening to a symposium on diverticulitis, and that really shows the power of this fully integrated course. If you go to the middle top here, we're also still critical on our abstracts. We don't accept everything. We accept around 60% in the scientific committee that's done under the presidency of Herbert, and the quality of the abstract is still going up as well. If you look where our participants come from, this is what we want. We don't want just to be a European meeting, we want to be an international meeting, and we are, because the numbers from the eastern part and the US are going up as well, and still about 2/3 of the participants come from Europe. Industry is important, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that later, but we're very grateful because a large part of the income comes from industry and also from the registration fees. And if you're not in the auditorium here, or you're not in Barcelona, it's very easy now to follow the entire meeting online, and I think that's another thing we've invested in quite heavily and probably is important for the future. This is maybe the treasure of the week, the scientific committee. This is just a group of representatives of their societies, but they're put in a room, and this is really kind of a pressure cooker concept. They don't go out and discuss with their societies. No, together these people invest quite a lot of time in making a really multidisciplinary program. You'll see mostly multiple specialties in all of the sessions, and together they work very closely together to organize this. So they are really probably very important for us. They also work about a year ahead, because you cannot just start thinking about the week a few months before. So now they're already starting to think about next year's week. And the other thing is, what is important to mention about them is that they also look at new concepts. If you want to be fit for the future, you have to continuously change. So they look at the quality, introduce new concepts, see if that works. If it doesn't work, it goes out again. But you always see new things at our meetings, I think. So the evolution from the small group of 7 societies, friends and colleagues, that said, okay, let's do something together in 1992, to a really united European gastroenterology has been quite spectacular. We are, as Together with all the societies, we're much bigger than we are at the small societies we have. I think, and the united part is really an important thing. The multidisciplinary united part is really one of the big treasures again. We are united in we're having a house of gastroenterology. This is our house of gastroenterology in Vienna, or your house of gastroenterology in Vienna. This is where we have the permanent secretariat in the house, but this is also where all the committees meet. And if we, for instance, in research try to form new platforms, then they meet in Vienna as well. So this is an important part of United European Gastroenterology. And this is probably also very important because we have 30 people here in Vienna, 30 permanent staff in Vienna, paid staff that support our committees and the board, etc., and the council. And they actually help our volunteer leadership a lot. So if a committee meets during a day in Vienna, then of course there's a lot of ideas, but not always there's time to work out these ideas. And these, mostly ladies and a few men, work out these ideas and come back and feed the committees with the concept of new strategies, etc. There's also 3 people in Brussels for our permanent representation at the EU, which is also important. I'll come back to that in a moment. We also listen very carefully to our members, our member societies, and we take responsibility by making a nice strategic plan. I think this year is the first year of this 4 years. Then we look at core values, we look at the vitality of the organization, which is partly done by volunteer leadership, and we also look at these strategic drivers, which I will not go into detail, but I'll pick out a few of them because they are again something we do united and which we could not do as smaller societies on our own. These are our members. We have 17 special societies and since yesterday 48 national societies, so 65 societies are member of UEG. For public affairs, as I said, we go to Brussels, we advocate, we engage, we try to influence. This is a long-term project and we have groups of MEPs, stakeholder politicians, etc. We try to involve as many people and promote digestive health because that's what we're here for. Research, of course, we fund the research prize, which just went to Silvio Danese, but we can't fund large research studies because we just don't have the funds to do that. What we can do, we can try to bring people together. As I said, in the House of Gastroenterology, we can support people. We award best abstract with prizes, etc. And we can try also in Brussels, through the Public Affairs Committee, to influence the calls for European grants. Again, something we do quite effectively now in the past 4 or 5 years. We look at quality of care. We try to implement clinical standards. We try to support there. Through our national members, we can implement those standards of care. We have a beautiful guideline repository. Many, or actually all of our member societies make guidelines and we bring them together in a guideline repository, and if we find gaps there, we may actually support guidelines to fill those gaps as well. So another important thing. And finally, education, I think, is one of our most important areas, and we have many different kinds of education that we support. We do online, of course, we do quite a lot, some printed matter, but printed is going out, but also classroom courses, which are highly appreciated, which are highly effective, but of course also expensive. If you want to bring 50 people together for a basic science course, that is really, they're very highly valued, but it's also quite an investment, and we do that every year. So, are we fit for the future? Well, you could at some points doubt, because models are changing continuously. Will you still travel as much as you're doing now? We've seen a reduction in travel, but still the week is doing very well. But maybe if we go further into the future, then traveling will be much less, and we have to go more to online education. One of the things, of course, which is important, is that we are completely dependent on the week financially. 90% of the income of the UEG comes from the week. And it's questioned whether that model is sustainable in the future. Maybe the rules around sponsoring will change. Maybe sponsoring will not be possible anymore at one point, which means if we still want to do this, your registration fee would double, triple, or even more. And is it viable in the future that you will pay 2,000, 2,500 to go to a UEG week. We're not sure. In other areas like legal, education, etc., that's quite normal now to pay more than 1,000 euros for one day of education. But in the medical field, we've always been dependent of a financial support by the industry. So if you then look at education in the future, maybe everything is going to online and streaming, etc. And maybe we have a relatively small meeting, but everything is being streamed from different locations. Again, difficult to predict, and also difficult to see if we can actually somehow find a business model around it, because without the income we currently have from the week, we can't do much less than we're doing now. One of the questions we get quite a lot is why we don't have an individual membership. Why, if there is a community, we have the hashtag #WeAreUEG, which you will see everywhere the coming days. But why is there no individual membership? Well, clearly we've started as an organization from national member side and specialty member societies. We have a big Facebook group and we're active on Twitter, etc. But maybe at one point we want to unite this community and make this community more visible by introducing something like an individual membership. We're not sure, and we actually want to, we need your advice as well. So we opened a small email address, future@ueg.eu. So we'll be very happy to have some ideas of you, whether we should never do this, introduce it, or other plans. Again, Fit for the Future is one of the important things for the coming years. And with that, I'd like to end this presidential address and invite you to next year's week, which is in October 10 to 14. And fortunately for me, it's in Amsterdam, and I hope we'll meet and exchange and evolve there again. Thank you very much.